It's the Powerhouse Woman Show. You're a powerhouse woman, successful, accomplished, but you know the time has come for something else. To pivot, make a shift, or do what you've been putting off for a long time. I'm Monica Pierre, a media entrepreneur, Emmy Award-winning journalist and coach, and I'm on a mission to help you figure out your path forward and create powerful new stories about your life and legacy. There's more ahead. Time to do the greatest work of your life. Hello once again, and welcome to the Powerhouse Woman Show. I'm your host, Monica Pierre. And yes, you're at a space now, a place where you think, you know what? I want to do something different. I want to create something new. Or perhaps how life happens, you're at a position where, you have to find something new or do something new. So how do you do that? And we're going to talk about the foundation to being ready, being open, being willing lies with being a lifelong learner. And someone who is a true advocate of lifelong learning is Linedda McIver. Okay, strategist, certified coach. I'm going to bring the paper here. Communications expert, community relations expert, critical thinking, system thinking. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And just recently, a 2022 graduate fellow of Loyola University here in New Orleans is Nancy Marsiglia Institute of Justice.
Yes.
My goodness gracious.
Yes.
Linedda, welcome to the Powerhouse Woman Show.
Thank you, Monica. So happy to be here.
Oh, we have had many conversations really over the last several months about particularly powerhouse women who have a lot of things that they have accomplished, but they're looking to do something new, something different, or they may feel that they better do something new or position themselves if there's going to be a shift or a change or a shutdown or whatever to be ready for that. What are your thoughts about lifelong learning and what does that really mean for powerhouse women?
I'm so happy you asked that question. I'd like to start off by saying, oftentimes we have been guilty of viewing our future as the sunset of life rather than viewing it as a sunrise of opportunities. And that usually occurs as we age. We stop being curious. We stop trying things. We stop challenging ourselves. We stop taking risks. And it's all because we lose confidence in ourselves and we allow self-doubt enter our consciousness and enter our mind. What was pivotal for me, and it's always etched in stone, was I used to hear my mother talk about her aspirations of being a writer, playing the piano, talking and socializing with people, and then life happens. And we all use that, I would say, as a reason. I'm not going to say excuse. Life happens. I just couldn't do it. Life challenges will get in the way, but if we think them through, we can think our way around those challenges. In other words, we're more resilient than we think, and we have more gifts and talents than we think. So it's a matter of doing that self introspection and that self reflection, which is necessary now because, as you know, I work for AARP, and today's life expectancy, we can easily live until 100 years old. In fact, that's the largest growing demographic that we have within AARP, the age 80 to 100. So now if you're age 60, you have another 40 years you can plan for, and the sky is the limit. So with lifelong learning, this is an opportune time to start thinking about those things you've always wanted to explore. You've always wanted to learn. You've always wanted to challenge yourself. I say go for it. Now is the time.
Now is definitely the time. And as you were speaking, I started thinking about early on in my journey, in my career, or even as a woman, a young girl, everybody wants to ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we always have to pick something, and of course, pick something that's sensible. Because if you say I want to be an actress, and giving you the side eye, like, what are you talking about? How has that hurt us over the decades, particularly when we decided we were going to make a decision, choose it, put all of our energies into it, and then come to a place where we're saying, well, maybe there is more. Maybe there is something else that I can do. But we're so known for the other thing that we're often hesitant to do that.
Yes, and sometimes we can self-brand ourselves to be known for that, because we really, really strive to do things, and we really strive to do things perfectly. That we sort of limit ourselves because we brand ourselves so well. So, what if you are a chameleon? What if you, like you said, started off as a young girl? Your life as a young girl is totally different than the young girls that are coming up today. We have so many images that we see of what we can do in terms of STEM, who we can be. It wasn't like that at one time. So the women that are the young girls that are following have options. We didn't have those options. You were a teacher, you were a nurse, you worked at the telephone system, you worked at the government. It was
Right.
very
Right.
limited.
And we love that because we weren't in the fields. I mean, I grew up as a sharecropper's daughter. If that got me out of the hot sun, you can call me whatever. I'm willing.
Yes, yes, yes. I think we all have that story in terms of limitation, even being a woman. But what is so interesting now, and I have to say, still inspirational to me, even at my age, is that when I look at people like Nancy Pelosi, and I look at Michelle Obama, and I look at Oprah, and I say, oh my goodness, excuse me, they're they haven't stopped growing. So why should I?
Right.
I
And I
look
think
at
you hit yeah, it's like we call it lifelong learning, but I would probably add and lifelong growing, that
yes.
we can continue to grow. And you mentioned, Linedda, that you are the director of multicultural outreach with AARP. What are some of the lifelong learnings that's taking place with the people that you work with, women and men of a certain age, and how they are maybe even looking at what they've done and repackaging, repurposing, or even
Hmm.
having those transferable skills to do
Hmm.
something else?
Well, we have an initiative called Disrupt Aging, and Disrupt Aging is exactly what it said, disrupting everything you think about the aging process. How do you still remain viable in the workplace, even though there are five generations in the workplace? How to still be competitive, how to be relevant, how to work with intentionality. Um, so we really ask that the value of experience will outshine every time. So what we have to do is start looking at all of our skills and all of our talents and lining them up. But then we also have to look at the gaps, or we have to look at, say, those areas where we fall short to remain relevant, work with intentionality, and address those areas. And it's okay. It's okay to identify if gaps or areas where you need to develop knowledge and skills. That's separate. Areas that you need to work on, such as social skills, speaking skills, technology skills, writing skills, and just line those up and start addressing them by improving those competencies. And you don't necessarily have to go back to school to do that. So many things are on YouTube, so many things you can read about, so many workshops you can engage in, and networking opportunities if going back to school is not affordable or if it's not a path. for you to do that. But also look at what you can transfer to another job. And we never look at some of the things that we do are transferable skills to another job.
Well, let me ask. There was just an article with the Wall Street Journal, I think maybe last week or the week before, talking about the exodus of a lot of teachers, how
Mhm.
they've pretty much packed up their classrooms over the May or June, and that's it. They've had enough of teaching. But some are even being attracted and looking out how they can work in other industries. So, give me an example about transferable skills. Let's say you're that teacher, you've worked 15, 20, 30 years for whatever reason, you no longer want to do it anymore. What are some transferable skills that you could start to look at in other industries that would be a good fit for you?
Well, I tell you this, teaching is teaching, right? So if we view it as though, say, for example, and you know, that's, I don't even know if it's on my bio, but I was also a teacher too.
Yeah, in fact, I was about to pull it out. Like, yeah, you taught, you did every. She worked as a public school teacher, a
Yes,
radio
I
talk show
did.
host, producer, TV producer, and journalist.
Yes, yes, yes. Because I worked in the school district at one time, of course, as director of communications. And then I would go to the classrooms and I see these kids and I say, oh, this is really what I want to be. So the opportunity came about to become teach communications, which of course that was my field. And I jumped on it because I said, I could do this. I just never doubted myself. But let's go back to the transferable skills as a teacher because that pivoted me into my next job. Believe it or not, because on my resume as a teacher, and you're seeing the communication skills. When I returned after Hurricane Katrina, the Red Cross was seeking someone to manage the Southeast Louisiana area with teaching skills that they wanted to convert into training skills. So, training is teaching. Curriculum development for the classroom is the same as looking at a curriculum you need to develop to train volunteers, to set up for disaster preparedness that you can teach others to help others in disaster preparedness. So those teaching skills pivoted into a training opportunity. So teaching skills, training skills. Also, when you look at that, teachers are also utilized to recruit other students. Consider becoming a recruiter, especially if you're a high school teacher, you're accustomed to working with students. Universities seek people who are accustomed to working with high school students to recruit students to attend the university who can give the value proposition of that university to that student. So those are just a couple of ways that, say,
Mhm.
for example, if you're a teacher, how you can transfer those
Yeah.
skills.
And Lynetta, would you say too that it's also a mindset shift that
Mhm.
oftentimes, particularly with women, that they go, well, that's not my degree, or I really haven't done that, that they don't really know how to look at what they're being asked to apply for or what they could apply for, and they automatically say, no, this is not me.
Well, I tell you, Monica, that is the main thing that keeps us from moving forward. It's that negative self-talk, how we talk ourselves out of things. But really, we would imagine that we talked about life gets in the way, but we get in our own way. And what do I mean by that? Anything you think or say that limits your belief in yourself or your future. I'm too old. I just don't know if this will work. What will people say or think about me leaving my high paying job to take this job paying less money? But this is a job I really, really want to do. So you're really torn. And that's all in all of that headspace, and that's really, really limiting. Also, we are afraid to focus on our faults or qualities that we know that are not working for us. and addressing them. None of us like to admit faults in each other or gaps. So instead of sitting back and just thinking about those faults, look forward to improving them. Improve your social skills. Many times there are competencies that outweigh any skills like social and emotional intelligence. You may have a person that's highly skilled, but they have no social or emotional intelligence to be able to lead teams. So you sit back and wonder why you're consistently being passed over because you've been in the job so long. You have all of the credentials and you have all of the skills, and someone way in the back gets the promotion. And it's because that person had the social and emotional intelligence to move forward.
Right. And again, most things, many things are figure outable, learnable. And one of the things you talk about, Linedda, is how we look at life, whether we're starting out on our journey, whether we're mid, 50s, 60s, that 80 to the 100 area, that it's really about the journey and exploration to that.
Yes.
What do you mean by life as exploration?
Well, I was always inquisitive. And they call you a precocious, inquisitive child. I was always kept my eyes and my ears open. So I will tell you when I really, really became encouraged to just grab life by the horn. As I was raising my daughter, I would mold her and tell her certain things in terms of how she should approach life. And I had to ask myself, am I approaching life the same way? So that was really, really catalytic for me. Having a daughter that I wanted her to see continual growth. I wanted her to see strength. I wanted her to see what we call a boss lady in action. And I would take her to work instead of saying there are role models out there. I wanted to be that role model for her. And well, you've met my daughter, so
Yes, she's amazing. Just
you see
amazing.
and it's continual growth. Now she's a role model for me. Her energy, her fearlessness, so it's reciprocal. And it's okay to have a friend or a mentor or even a boss that you've worked with. I had a boss that I've worked with maybe about 12 years ago, and she was so awesome. I said I was just going to learn everything I could from her because I loved her leadership skills. So just look at those that can be a role model or a mentor, and then look at yourself, because especially with your children and your grandchildren, because they're going to be what they see.
Yes. They're going to be what they see. And you make an interesting point because learning, lifelong learning, is, of course, it can be the skills and the certification, but it's also the mentor and the people who you admire and people that are just really that challenge you to see yourself in a bigger place and a bigger stage.
Yes, yes. And so we have to start looking at who's in your friend circle, because sometimes you outgrow it. We never outgrow stages of life. As you were a teenager, you outgrew your set of friends and you moved on to something else. And you may now be at a stage where you've outgrown these friends. It's time for you to find more friends or an additional circle to start socializing with or networking with, because this is the circle that's going to propel me to where I want to be.
Amazing. We're almost out of time, but any final words or thoughts? Because I know there are powerhouse women right now, and it's not just, oh, it's 65 and you're making these decisions. You could
Yes,
be 45, and the
yes.
time has come for this. And any final words, or even, 'cause I know one of the things that you talk about is, looking at where we are, looking at the gaps, and then also enjoying and embracing life. So, what's the final message?
Well, again, start where you are. Really, really know what you aspire to be. Don't doubt the aspiration. Don't doubt the tug in your heart. It's a real thing. I
Mhm.
always like to say, if I were to give you a courage pill today to do whatever you want, what would you do? What would you do with your spouse, your kids, your friends? What would you do? But even more importantly, what would you do for you? So let this be like a courage pill and just really, really say, this is what I'm going to do for me. And it may not make sense to everyone else, but it makes sense to you. And always remember this, sometimes you have to step back to move forward. And that's not a bad thing. So, because we grow horizontally just as much as we grow vertically.
So we
So,
can step back and reflect and see.
oh well, no, step back. Like I said, when I was at the school district, I worked in administration. Stepping into that classroom, it was half the salary, and it
I see
was
what you're
just
saying.
something that tugged at my heart. It was just something
Hmm.
that I wanted to do, and it was what we. But I grew so much from that job. So our growth is not always upward climbing. I want to go to the next step. I want to go, and we make that vertical growth. Sometimes it's horizontal growth that you're growing as a person or as an individual, and that's the growth that satisfies your heart.
Absolutely. Linedda McIver, thank you. This is amazing. Love these conversations. Thank you for shining light. And, you're not just talking, you are absolutely walking this walk as well.
And enjoying it.
Ah, and enjoying it. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. Hope you've heard something that will encourage you, inspire you, and you can do this because you deserve this. Nobody but you deserve it. This is your life as well. We'll see you next time on the Powerhouse Woman Show.